Hello and welcome to FS Brew. FS Brew is the region's first podcast focusing on all things insurance and Insurtech here in the UAE and the wider Middle East. I'm Vidya. I'm the founder of Forward, a startup that works with insurance companies to build their go-to-market digital propositions.
And hi, I'm Renjit Philip. I consult with mid-sized companies on M&A and funding requirements. In this episode, we are speaking with Koy Nien, who is the CEO of Protego Insurance, which is an insurance brand backed by RAK Bank. He has had long years of experience in product development, digital financial planning, channel development, so on and so forth. And he comes from Singapore and Malaysia.
It's so great to have you with us today.
Welcome.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Great. So this is a question we ask all our guests, Koy. How did you get into insurance? And we were looking at your bio. We saw that you've had a really distinguished career with leading financial institutions in Southeast Asia. And then you transitioned into the UAE. So tell us a little bit about the journey. Why did you choose Protego to join in? And how do you think your sort of leadership style will shape Protego and the insurance landscape?
Vidya, there's a lot packed in that question. But
Yes.
That's the full podcast.
True.
My path
Let's
into
break it down.
insurance is quite an unusual one. I actually started my career as an engineer. And right after that,
Okay.
I joined Economic Development Board of Singapore, which was quite a well-respected institution known to produce well-rounded professionals and civil servants. And one day, I've gotten a call from a recruiter offering the most interesting opportunity to serve as the chief of staff to the CEO then, which was a very charismatic Mr. Christopher Wei, right? And I was sold by his vision, right, to want to transform the insurance company into a more modern one that makes good use of technology, as well as innovate to better serve the customer. And it has also been a choice of mine at that time to want to venture into financial sector. So that was
Nice.
a really good opportunity, a good starting point to go into insurance. And since then, I've found my place to transform the insurance industry just one step at a time. So that's how I got into insurance. And your next question, how did I end up in UAE and with Protego? It has always been my dream to lead an Insurtech company to revolutionize how insurance is experienced by people. And Protego provides that very unique opportunity. Insurtech that could make a difference in terms of how we engage customers, right? And at the same time, Protego is being backed by RAK Bank. So it provides a lot of advantages, including the stability, the trust factor of the brand, and the financial backing that gives me and perhaps even the customers a good confidence level that the business is well geared to make a difference in the industry. And lastly, being in UAE, a market that is still having such a strong growth outlook, very high digital adoption rates, and ripe for digital innovation, it just seemed to me like a perfect once in a lifetime opportunity that is too difficult to pass on. Here I am, and I'm enjoying my time greatly with Protego and in UAE. So the last question, Vidya, what will my leadership bring to the market?
Yeah.
So my passion lies in how we can leverage technology to make insurance more accessible and relatable to the people. Right? I believe in an omni-channel model, right, whereby technology and being digital allows us to serve customers when and wherever they want to, but yet still retaining the opportunity for human touch so that our professionalism as well as empathy comes through at the key moments of truth. That is the type of business that me and my team want to shape. And lastly, I'm a strong believer that insurance is very relevant to everyone for lifelong financial planning, and it deserves to have a bigger mind share in the population. So I do hope that our brand can also make an impact in terms of bringing higher awareness of insurance to the people.
So obviously a lot to unpack there. And I think, first of all, welcome to the market again. And so you mentioned it's backed by RAK Bank, which is a fairly new trend here. Elsewhere, there is bank ownership of aggregators, part ownership, bank ownership of insurance companies, and so on and so forth. As far as I understand, this is a broker license in the UAE, right? And so it's fully owned by RAK Bank. So what is the strategic drivers for RAK Bank to set this up? What would you say that is?
Yes. So for RAK Bank, the ambition lies in serving the wider population in UAE beyond just its current banking customers.
Right.
So with a business like Protego, whereby our current suite of products serves the everyday life activities of the people, as well as having the digital platform that extends our reach, would allow Protego and therefore the RAK Bank Group to have a wider reach into the population and to make a bigger impact in the market. I think that's one. And the other way of looking at it is also to create a more diversified portfolio of revenue streams to support the long-term ambitions of the RAK Bank Group. Right. And lastly, having Protego being the only vertically integrated insurance brokerage in the market, right, and being able to take advantage of synergies within the group, right, also puts us in a very strong position to create better shareholder value. And in a nutshell, that's how RAK Bank sees its investments in Protego strategically.
Got it. I think you mentioned that full stack nature. I think we had a question on the operating model. So clearly there is a digital front end, which we can see. And by the way, a very nice, cute and cuddly mascot and great colors, I really like that. By virtue of regulations, obviously it has to stand alone. There must be some element of the bank which kind of oversees this and some shared functions as well in terms of the operating model. How does it work? And also one question that we always have is whenever an established company starts a new division or a new startup, how does it operate? Is it in an agile manner or is it still in that corporate mold? These are some of the questions that come up to mind.
So firstly, Protego, we are an independent entity and we are fully empowered to run just like one. Right. And so for all our key positions, definitely it is fully run in-house by Protego staff. And yes, there are some shared services where we can leverage the expertise and the capacity of the bank. Right. And other than that, I would say that having the DNA of the banking industry, we are holding ourselves to higher standards in terms of professionalism and governance. So therefore, I can only see it also in a positive manner, that it builds confidence with the regulator as well as with our consumers, right? That we want to build up the trust factor by running the business in the right way.
Perfect. Very good.
Oh, that's great. Amazing. Koy, we want to switch gears a little bit. We want to go into your experience. You had a tenure with AIA Malaysia. It involved a lot of affinity marketing and affinity partnerships. Now, obviously, there are some cultural differences in the Middle East versus Southeast Asia. But how can affinity marketing strategies can be tailored to engage with digital platforms, especially in the Middle East insurance sectors? There is a lot of resistance when you have to do, especially affinity side of business. Talk us through how would you navigate and what are your thoughts on it?
I would say the business model or the channel that was being run during my time at AIA is one that is highly innovative, and I do see a lot of potential in it. Right. One of the key challenges that insurance face is that it's typically said to be a product that is sold rather than bought. But how do we then transition it to be something that's more on the other side, where customers more readily purchase? So to me, one key innovation to make that happen is really to bring insurance down to the purpose of the daily lives that customer is conducting. And nowadays it's conducted through the digital apps and digital platforms like the Kareems of the world. Right? So having insurance being embedded in that journey allows it to be most relevant to customers, right? When the proposition of that insurance is well tied to the purpose of the particular application and presented in a way that is engaging and with as minimal friction as possible, so that customers don't take too much time to think about it and they just get that insurance along with the services of the app. So I think for that business model, it has a lot of potential, right? And even if we look across markets, the fundamentals of how this model can be successful is going to be the same, right? It's how well the proposition of insurance marries with the purpose of the app, how the journey is created to be engaging, right? And at the same time, having the key transparency availed to the customer so that it's also a fair transaction. But you did bring up a good point. It doesn't mean that whatever work that was done in other parts of the world, you can just copy fully in another different market. There are nuances in terms of how the customer journey needs to be designed, just based on the cultural differences and the preferences of a different population. But equally important, or I would say, it's the regulatory aspect and the digital readiness of the partner. Right. For insurance to be embedded in those journeys, right, there are expectations, right, that the insurance institution continue to conduct the business in a fair manner, and data privacy is also being taken care of, and the responsibilities of serving the customer remains intact with the rightful party. So I think those are all the areas that needs to be navigated by institutions in this part of the world to bring embedded insurance to life.
So this is the problem, I think, not a problem, but a little bit of a gap when partners have a certain expectation. And obviously, as insurers, we have a certain rigor, especially around underwriting and stuff. So there is a little bit of matchmaking that needs to happen, and understanding of a syncing of the expectation also needs to happen.
And obviously, the technological maturity as well, right? When you come from Asia to anecdotally, and I think we know that Asia is slightly ahead in terms of API access, mobile.
Yeah.
So anyway, diving a little, you mentioned those cultural differences and the market piece. So let's dive a little bit into the market itself. We can see that you launched with the traditional products like car, home, travel, so on and so forth. One would argue that this is a fairly saturated market, number of players and number of even aggregators now. What are the sort of gaps that Protego is looking to address right now? And who is Protego's ideal customer?
Okay. So I partially agree with your starting statement, right? That those products, it can be viewed that a lot of existing players offer that in the market already, right? But I don't think that it's saturated yet in the point of view that the population is growing, right? And all those products would continue to have a bigger business space. Right? And the other way of looking at it is that how those products are currently offered, it can be done better. I will provide some examples. One is the journeys can be made more simple and seamless with the use of technology. And there are a lot of advancements going on, right, with UAE Pass. And perhaps there are even more API connectivity that is going to be standardized and enabled in a way that all of institutions like ours can take advantage of. Right. And I think the way such products are being marketed at the moment, it's also more tactical in nature, right? Bringing up the affordability or ongoing promotions that make it attractive to do it through certain parties, right? But imagine if we can make use of technology and AI, right, to recommend products that is a better fit to the individuals. That's one way to make insurance propositions even more relevant, right, and more attractive to customer. And also looking at what is the wholesale services quality. In fact, maybe if you ask a customer, they care more about what happens when the moment of truth comes. Are they going to get a payout? Are they going to be treated fairly? And are they going to be getting the right and timely responses? I think that is also a huge area of opportunity where insurance companies as well as brokerages can improve on with use of technology. Technology would bring new possibilities and things that maybe at this point in time is not viewed as a gap. It becomes new opportunities that can be unlocked.
Sure. So you've mentioned about the whole idea of using technology and to improve the customer journeys itself. And there's so much of advancements that has happened in Gen AI where you can really give out very valuable personalized experience to the customers, whether it's in customer service or from sales or even claims like you mentioned. Now, what is the aspiration for you as a leader of Protego that achieve in this whole personalization domain? How do you want to use this technology to enhance?
So in advancements in AI and Gen AI, it would bring a lot of benefit to a business like ours. And I see it from two spectrums. Firstly, starting from the customer's lens, it has the deep potential to tap on the insights about the individual customer to provide a more relevant and personalized recommendation for that particular individual. Right. And I think that opportunity becomes even more impactful when open finance comes. whereby richer insights about each individual can be leveraged to provide a better recommendation using AI. And on the other hand, if we view a brand's interaction with customer, it would come in the form of many different touch points and for different purposes. Right? For some touch points, customer prefer advice or the personal touch, but for some touch points, it's more about seamlessness of that interaction. So that's where AI could provide that type of experience whereby responses can be instantaneous, right? And with Gen AI, there's capability to also more easily understand what the customer needs in a more open form rather than providing a list of 10 options for customers to choose from. So I think that also provides a lot of opportunities for a customer to get a better experience. So lastly, from the company point of view, we can also better rationalize when we need our advisors to engage the customer and when an automated Gen AI solution would already work very well. Right? For example, at the early stages of engaging the customer, just to answer queries, right, and to address what type of service request that is, it can be readily taken up by Gen AI bots. Right? Whereas when it comes to moment of truth, then we can let our advisors demonstrate their empathy and professionalism to take care of our customers.
Got it. Yeah. So are these bots been already deployed or you are planning to deploy these?
So these capabilities, we are alongside some of our other players in the market, we are taking a close look at it. Right? But I would say for these solutions to be able to put to very good use, it also depends on the company's tech readiness, and also it's going to be a journey for us to get there.
Got it. And just sort of going back to the earlier point on the customers, right? I mean, if you look at the younger customer base, they are seeing on their social apps, a lot of these personalized AI bots are already there. For example, Meta has made this Meta AI available, right? So they are more used to talking to AI bots and not people like from my generation, Gen Xers, for it'll be very weird for us to converse with AI. But for the younger customer base, probably, which you are targeting now, it's very natural. So it's okay. So going into, obviously, we talked about this a new brand and building it from scratch. Very fascinating to know how you went about building this brand and choosing the mascot, and what are the lessons that you could probably give to any new Insurtech brand being launched in the market?
Yes, the public launch that we had last year was a very exciting moment for us, and we have learned a lot from it. I would highlight a few key ones. Firstly, right, we believe that the purpose of the brand needs to come true, right, even one step ahead of the products that we are bringing forward. Right, this purpose of ours is to make insurance relatable, accessible, human, and yet transparent, so that we can build up that trust factor. Having this very clear purpose that is also anchored in authenticity helps us to have a brand that resonates with people. And that has also helped us to gain a lot of traction when we launched the brand. Right. Secondly, we found that branding to do it well is in the details. We wanted a brand that is more engaging, playful, and relatable to the public. So that's why in our design and the tone of voice that we use, right, it's also taking an engaging approach rather than a clinical approach that the usual insurance brands would use. Yeah. Right? So that also allows it to resonate better and also create some curiosity of the consumers to want to understand what we have to say and how insurance is relevant to them. One other area that we found to be quite promising is to collaborate with influencers, right? Because as I mentioned, authenticity is important. And when we work with influencers, we want the influencers to bring up the authenticity of an experience that they just had with Protego or with insurance. And all the more that makes the brand and insurance relevant to the wider group of consumers. We are always talking about the products. So we want to talk about the outcomes for our consumers rather than just about the product.
I think I was probably going to ask a question on the viability of launching a direct-to-customer brand, because obviously as a broker, there's a limited amount of revenue that you have to play around with because of the commissions. And branding is usually an expensive affair. But I think you answered it by saying you picked influencers. That's not so expensive when you want to get the brand out there. Is that correct? Am I making the right assumption here?
Depends on the influencers.
Yes, absolutely. If you're going with Kim Kardashian, it's an expensive affair. Yes.
No, you have local Kim Kardashians who charge a
Medias or channels used for market. To a certain extent, they are quite widely used in consumer industries already. Yes, cost efficiency would still be an area where each brand would need to invest very intelligently so that you are making the most out of it.
Yeah.
So find specific channels or influencers that resonate better with our proposition and with our brand promise. And typically, if you do it this way, there's a better win-win, right? And the traction that we get out of it would tend to be better. And on top of that, because we are tapping on the influencers following, right? It's creating that community that would support the brand in time to come once the trust with the brand builds up, right? So then it becomes more of a brand or proposition that can also be spread by consumers themselves, by the word of mouth, by just going viral, instead of just going for each lead, each opportunity by throwing marketing dollar, which is going to, yes, it requires deep pocket if you are just going mass market that way.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. We want to switch back to your career and your experience and draw in from the whole experience that you have gained on the whole digital transformation. I think you have over 15 years of experience in leading multiple digital transformation initiatives. It is a very tough space from an insurance point of view because transformation is pretty slow when it comes to digital transformation. So what are the lessons that you have learned from all these initiatives that you have led to break through culturally and from countries from Southeast Asia, and how do you bring that to Middle East?
So I've driven transformation from both banking, right, as well as insurance. So I would say it depends on which part of the journey the organization is in, right? If we are talking about a startup, then it's easier for us to embrace all the new technologies, new ways of working, right? Because there's very little legacy, right? But if we are trying to drive this transformation in a bigger organization, typically it would need to be top down for a start because it would require the commitment of the senior management and investments to also build or rebuild the foundation to enable new technologies to be used within the organization. And I've also observed that a success also comes through when the right use cases are being prioritized and picked to be focused on, right? Because the whole transformation journey is also an exercise of change management, right? We will need to show early successes to build confidence, to build momentum, right? And let those new emerging working models to be spread across the organization. And I would say it's a multi-year journey, and you're always going to have a mix of people, right, who are believers of the transformation from the start, right? And another layer, which actually can be convinced once early successes emerge. And there will be a last group that will take a little bit more change management process to come through. So again, it takes a top-down effort, but then eventually it needs to spread within the organization for everyone to embrace it before it can really be very successful.
Quite a long-term journey.
Yes.
Earlier, you mentioned the open APIs. So a couple of questions. Obviously, this is something we have been tracking on the podcast and very exciting. And we have seen other regions, Europe and so on, adopt this. A couple of things we want to ask is, what do you expect the impact is going to be on a player like Protego? In terms of those seamless processes that you mentioned earlier. B, in terms of product offerings, right? This is also probably an opportunity to create some interesting products with the data points that the customer gives. Would love to know about that as well.
Yes, definitely. I don't think we need to elaborate a lot about the seamless journey because that is to be expected. And in some other industries, it has been experienced, right? But you are absolutely right that API connectivity enables sharing of data insights, right? That could unlock better services to be provided by the brands, right? So I think in this space, once a different organization have the richness of the data, right, is really how do you plan to make good use of those information, right, and provide a better service or a better recommendation for the customers to be served, right? For Protego, that's an area that we would also like to leverage and build on over time. And especially part of our strategy is also to start to work with more partners in the market, right? And with each of those partners would also have a lot of insights, right, from their end. So how can we marry both sides of the insights to serve insurance in a more contextual manner for us to have a commercial success?
Yeah. I suppose this is where having the parentage of a bank helps. We know from our banking backgrounds that people like Visa and MasterCard have tons of purchasing information.
Totally.
Wonder if you could mix that information with the risk information, very interesting products could result, right?
Correct.
Yes, that's right. So with those insights, right? Yes, I think I left out one area. You are right to say that it could also drive a new type of innovation, right? Whereby products can be made more modular, right? And personalized, right? And I think for insurers, what used to be the barrier is that there wasn't sufficient information to justify a new way of pricing the product, right? Based on more accurate risk scoring for individuals, right? But with those richness of new data, it at least opens up the possibility for that to be done. And of course, with technology, how that is being implemented also becomes visible.
Yep.
Absolutely. So from a customer point of view, what are you seeing in terms of trends that are being adopted within the insurance space? We've seen the emergence of wearables, and that's linked to health insurance, telematics, which is obviously linked to motor. So what are the new trends that you think will emerge in the near future? And how are you using these trends potentially into product development? Are you using it or maybe for any other business aspects?
So I think one area that you have already mentioned, Vidya, how wearable technology, especially when it relates to the health state of the consumers, can be used for insurance. And in some other parts of the world, that has already been explored. I would say it yields two different advantages, right? One is, yes, some of those data could be relevant, right, to provide a better risk scoring, right, and leading to better personalized proposition or pricing for the consumer, right? But on the other hand, it also makes insurance more engaging, right? So that it's not an afterthought; it's something that people experience every day. So that is definitely one area that has taken some traction. And because since I came from Singapore, right, I can also share another form of, there are other forms of innovation as well, right? So for example, telematics, right, can be used not just for vehicle insurance. So in fact, in Singapore, where you have rainy days, and when rainy day comes, the cab fare that you pay varies significantly, right? It can even be used, right, to to provide an insurance, right, that insures the price that you will pay for your cab, right, in case the weather, right, becomes unpredictable. So telematics definitely has a lot of potential to be used in very different scenarios, right? That just makes insurance one step more relevant to everyday lives, other than providing right pricing for customers. And lastly, the big trend is really embedded insurance, right? Whereby customers get to think about insurance at the perfect time, right? When they are thinking about something that's related to the offered insurance, right? And in that journey, there will be very accurate information that allows better pricing of that product as well, right? And the journey makes it seamless for them, right? Instead of needing to go through underwriting, right? That particular journey itself solves for the risk factor. So all of different trends is taking root, and it's making insurance more relatable and seamless for the customers.
Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely. Taking on from that, some of these trends, and if you project it into the future for Protego, what do you see are the priorities for Pro over the next 3 to 5 years or so?
For Protego, where we are still relatively a new brand in the market, we would like to focus on really building up a winning customer experience, be it directly through our D2C platform, or when our brand is experienced through our partners, or even in the interactions that they have through our advisors. So we want to build those capabilities to serve customers seamlessly, right? And also with personalization, right? And by doing those well, we want to have a longer term relationship with the customer. So one that it's end-to-end in nature, including post-sales services, right? But where customers see the value of buying the next product with us, right? Because we help them to make sense of their portfolio, right? We help to keep track of what they have already bought to protect themselves and their loved ones. So that's where we want to start with. Right? But yes, over time, it's also important to enrich the propositions that we offer other than those three core products of travel, vehicle, and home insurance. Right? We want to go into the space of health insurance in the near future. And in the longer run, more unique propositions to come as can tap on our partners in the market as well. And after that, once we find the winning formula that gives high customer confidence, then we would start to look at what are the opportunities to unlock within the region.
Got it. Got it.
Nice.
So new products and possibly new geos in some time, perhaps. Okay, perfect.
Awesome. So we've pretty much actually come to the end of the first section of our podcast. Is there any question that you would have liked us to ask you?
No, I'm just looking forward to what the next section it brings.
Great. We have this exciting segment called the rapid fire segment where we ask you a few very short, more personalish sort of question. You've got to obviously keep it quite short and succinct, less than 60 seconds with a lot of fire if possible. Do you want to kickstart the first set of questions?
Sure, I can do that. All right. So let's start with the first one. Any favorite books, documentary, blogs that you usually read or recommend?
Okay. Yeah, off the top of my mind, right, one is this book called Loved, right? How do we rethink product marketing for tech companies?
Oh, nice.
Okay. And from good to great, how to build an organization that continues its excellence beyond a specific leader.
Yeah.
And I'm also a fan of Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice.
Great. That's great. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Lord of the Rings. Absolutely. Any favorite hobby or pastime when you're trying to unwind?
I'm a big fan of team sports, so I do play football.
Oh, nice.
And at time basketball. Go for a swim when I need some peace of mind.
Got it. And what would have been your sort of alternative career if you're not in this line?
I could have continued as an engineer, but then if nowadays some people they do talk about having a second career, right? Instead of talking about retirement. So for me, I do have interest to become a life coach if the opportunity.
Right. Excellent. And in terms of Dubai, what sort of local customs have you embraced or found interesting after your move to Dubai?
I've had a very positive experience thus far. I do find that people here exude warmth, and no pun intended, especially now that the temperature is rising. So the local custom of greeting each other in the local language, and also shaking each other's hands, and just showing warmness of people relations. So that's what I've picked up and I've enjoyed in UAE.
And have you had your first kadak chai already, or your? Yes. Okay. Great.
I've been well taken care of by my team here to help me get accustomed.
Very good.
Nice. Great. So, what is your personal leadership philosophy that you bring to Protego?
For my personal leadership approach, I believe in empowering my teams to solve problems, right? And also, I think it's important because it allows them to grow, right? And for Protego to be successful, I won't have all the answers all of the time, right? I have to trust my team to grow together with me and together with Protego as a brand. So I believe in empowering them. And secondly, I believe that teamwork is of utmost importance. If you want to go far, you have to go as a team. That's a saying that I believe in. And it not just enables us to be more successful, but it also makes the journey more worthwhile. We spend so much time working. If we're not enjoying the teamwork, then it becomes a more miserable experience.
Yeah,
true. Absolutely. Who has been a significant influence on your leadership style?
I would say I had a good fortune of learning from various leaders that I've worked for. So I pick a little from each of them. But if I want to quote or highlight a public figure, I would say I do follow Simon Sinek's brand of leadership that is based on leading with purpose, right? And also being selfless in leading the team. And lastly, to exhibit composure, even as the storm comes. Right? I find this as especially important for a tech company, right? Because we will be facing a lot of different situations, a lot of different challenges to resolve on a daily basis.
True. Absolutely. So, what's this one personal achievement you're most proud of since you joined Protego?
So I joined Protego in May last year, and we got launched into the public at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And being able to bring a new brand and a new platform to the market just within the first 6 months of my tenure was a proud moment for myself and also for my team, because they have built up a very strong foundation. And all I did was work together with them, bring it to the next level of readiness. And of course, in the last mile of launching the product, there were a lot of exciting episodes where it drives up the adrenaline and also requires me to balance between perfection and having an iterative growth mindset. So being able to launch a platform that worked well, it was really a proud moment for me and my team.
Fabulous. And how do you stay so motivated and inspired in your role?
I'm someone who's driven by a bigger purpose right now, which I see the opportunity to really make a difference in how insurance is being served. Having that purpose in mind makes me stay motivated every day. Another thing that is important is to have clear boundaries set, right, between work and also your personal or your family life. I believe that having space to rejuvenate and spend quality time with your loved ones, sometimes it just brings that renewed energy, right, every day. And you never know, when you are at a better state of mind, great ideas come more easily. So having that balance helps me stay fresh and motivated every day.
Perfect. Very
Great.
good.
Great. We wish you very best with Protego. Now, we have come towards the end of the podcast. It was wonderful to chat with you again. All the best.
Thank you very much, Vidya and Renjit. Just like the fire chat, I enjoy our time talking about Insurtech.
Absolutely. It was great to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. And all the best to you both as well. Thank you.